welcome to this episode of Decoding the Design Within. Jehan Sattaur is our guest that we will be analyzing his chart. I do encourage you to go and take a look at our initial conversation so that you have the context to really apply to the energy and the information that I'm going to be providing you about his human design today. Everything here will be extracted from that original conversation on the channel Raising the Consciousness of Humanity, our sister channel to this channel, The Design Within You. So, without further ado, I want to show you his chart that we're looking at today. Jehan Sattaur. I've known him for quite some time now, and I have interviewed him before. And I do encourage you to look back at that interview. I believe it is called Sleeping Phoenix Vibes on this channel. We'll provide you with a link to that as well. He's a pure manifesting generator. And what does that mean? So he has that defined sacral, just like all of our other generators in this world. Manifesting generator, that designation is a subtype of generator. That means that his throat is activated by the sacral specifically. Other manifestors, their throat is motorized by a different motor center, either the spleen, the solar plexus, or the heart center. But in the case of the manifesting generator, this means that it is motorized by the motor center, the sacral. And there is that direct channel of charisma, which is an exclusively manifesting generator channel, the channel of charisma connecting that sacral to the throat center, as you can see by this red line here. And so the 2034 channel of charisma, really powerful channel, like only manifesting generators have this channel. He's a pure manifesting generator, not an emotional one, you'll notice, because his solar plexus is actually not lit up. It's not defined. You can see that by the white coloring. Whereas all of these other centers that you see color within, he has all of those defined in his chart. Lots of definition in his chart. The open centers being the solar plexus, the ajna, the head. And while he does have this 2034 channel of charisma, I mean, you can see right here, it is half of his incarnation cross, being that it is the sun and the earth activation here in his unconscious aspect, which is this red column here. And this particular incarnation cross is somewhat special. I'll go over that in a minute. I go over it more in the other video, but the sleeping phoenix, this incarnation cross, it's a really powerful one, really powerful people, really individually driven. They are they're rebels, to be honest. They have this and you'll pick that up from his energy, not overtly. It is more nuanced and subtle. I was even musing while we were talking that I had to like lean in to hear him. And as I was editing the video, it was interesting because I had to raise the volume because it's like, oh my gosh, he's talking about that really cool thing. Like he is a soft-spoken individual, but his energy is one that conveys a compelling a compelling magnetism that makes you want to lean in closer to hear what it is that he is like throwing down. Not all soft-spoken individuals are like that. He is a professional podcaster. So it makes perfect sense why like this energy would lend itself to the kind of work that he does on Boundless Authenticity podcast. Um, he has a 4-6 profile line, the opportunistic role model. Really interesting. I'll show you here on the screen. There are two trigrams in the profile line schema. And oftentimes they are relatable. They are compared to the house metaphor, where it's like the bottom three floors are one, two, and three profile lines, and then the top three floors are the four, five, and six. The six being the roof, the one being the foundation. And then like the three is the stairwell that kind of leads into the second floor of the house. That kind of makes sense. um and so, but it's really important to distinguish between the lower trigram of one, two, and three, and how four, five, and six are kind of like this mirror representation on a different dimensional plane of those first three. The first three relate to a very like personal way of relating to others. It's very like personally focused, and four, five, and six are really interpersonal in the relating to others with this energy. So there's only one profile line that exists exclusively in the second trigram, and that is the 4-6 profile line, which is what Jehan has. And these people are very interested in like relating to on an interpersonal level other people. So again, it makes perfect sense why he would be so interested in podcasting. And if you look into his work, he has like all of these really interesting conversations with lots of different people. And the fact that he is a valleys environment, that is doubly interesting. Valleys people are interesting in that I want you to picture a river valley. Like the environment is where, like in this kind of environment is where you do your best work. And I want you to think of it in literal terms of an actual valley, but I also want you to think of it figuratively as well, because it applies to both. So if you think of a literal river valley or like a river bed, like how rivers are created is like from the rainfall and the topography of the land. When after the water falls to the surface, it kind of like runs downhill, right, into the river valleys. And that's how rivers are created, where all this rainfall kind of accumulates into this central area where a flow is created. And they're very rich areas of lots of sediment and lots of accumulations that gather from that rainfall, kind of like driving downward into the valley, right? And so it's valley people are interesting in that they stay in their designated like turf area, and they kind of want you to come to them. And they are, they really love it when people bring them new information, the accumulation of of interesting things. Like that's why valleys are so rich for farmland, because as the rainwater collects things as it's rolling downhill, it all kind of accumulates, and it all kind of gets uh, centralized into this valley area. And I won't say that they're not like the hermit so much as they are it's not so much in isolation. There's a lot happening in a valley. There's a lot going on, but there is an element of being like sequestered away and safe with like these walls on either side, and having others come to you. So that is an interesting thing to consider. I really enjoy being in Jahan's field of energy. He has a really powerful and compelling voice. It's not powerful and compelling in the way that you might think that people that have a very individualistic and rebellious spirit, like I said, this channel of charisma is in the unconscious aspect. So he kind of comes across as soft-spoken. He comes across as not this like boisterous, in-your-face, flaming individual, but there is this element of like how do I describe it? Like there's a presence there that cannot be denied. And he is like it's an interesting and powerful and compelling presence that is that's very indicative of that sleeping phoenix energy that he has as his incarnation cross. So the Sleeping Phoenix incarnation cross, it's deeply personal. It's a deeply personal life theme. And what makes it really interesting and relevant to us is that it is the same foundational energy of the global shift that we are approaching in 2027. We're moving, like, see, it's not just human beings that have these defining incarnation crosses, which are comprised of these top four gates, the sun and the earth, in both the conscious placement as well as the unconscious placement. These four gates, I'll show you, they actually create a cross in the mandala. Okay. So if we wanted to find Jehan's cross, we would have to find the 20 and the 34. Here's the 59. This side is the 55. If you highlight these four, it will create a perfect cross, and that is known as the cross of the sleeping phoenix. And these crosses are indicated in our cycles as in the global consciousness program, and we're moving into this cross out of the cross of planning. Characteristics that define that: we're moving away from that institutional theme that the cross of planning provided for 400 years into an era that's focused on individual sovereignty. Notice all of what Jehan was talking about whenever you relate it back to the original conversation. Like it's like it is all about individual sovereignty and taking responsibility for one's own internal universe, as opposed to outsourcing that to like institutions or specializations, which is what the cross of planning really encourages in us. He is all about healing the self-sabotaging aspects of the human experience. The self-sabotage is that is an act that is entirely focused on, like, obviously the self. There's you can't really outsource that, and it brings that spotlight inward so that you are taking control of your own experience as a human, and you are becoming consciously aware of the behaviors you engage in, and what it is that you want and what it is that you're doing that is obstructing those desires. And so it makes perfect sense why Jehan would be so immersed in this work, why he would be so good at this. And, having that 4-6 profile line, he's all about working with other people. So there is this kind of like juxtaposition. It's like an internal deep dive while working interpersonally. So that is an interesting feature of his energy that seems like it might be contradictory, but it works really well for the work that he does with podcasting and individual one-to-one coaching. It makes good sense.
If you're putting together a puzzle, putting pieces in a logical order to where they fit to reach a whole picture, that's what life is. And life isn't going to unfold without your participation in it, even though you may be unaware of things that create circumstances. So you have to be willing to participate in your own rescue, in your own change process. There's a lot of content on the internet that doesn't allow for you to become fully aware, and in many instances to understand that two things can be true at the same time. For
Mm.
example, the rain could be falling, but you're not getting wet.
He has got a lot of definition in his chart. he knows exactly what he's doing. He knows what, what direction he's moving in. And he has a lot of energy, like actually generating inside of him, like these manifesting generators. They're like energizer bunnies, a lot of them. They have, and he has a lot of definition in his centers. There's three without definition. That open solar plexus, it's likely, I mean, I have an open solar plexus, and it's likely that he is going to experience that emotional wave in an inconsistent way, in that, things that set him, I don't want to say set him back, but come out of nowhere with like kind of a curveball are going to be at an emotional level. The open head means that he has like a thirst for new things that is, it's never going to be satiated. He's always going to feel that pressure to know more and to, acquire more knowledge about things. And that can be a real benefit, but it can also be a hindrance whenever it can distract you, whenever it's this constant pressure to gather more information. That open ajna means that he's going to have not one set way of looking at things. I think you might remember when he was talking about working with a client that, this thing can be true and this other thing can simultaneously be true, even whenever they look like they are a contradiction to one another. That is characteristic of an open ajna. Like you don't have one set way of like processing information and one set point of view. You can see things from many different points of view. And, that can be distracting. It really can be, especially whenever you are trying to center in on a decision, but it can also be illuminating in that you're not going to be boxed in by this one perspective, and it's going to make you miss the forest for the trees. So there's not really it's not that like the definition in centers means that that's a good thing always, and that the openness in the centers is like something that you don't have. That's not true. The openness in the centers means that that energy that is coursing through those centers is going to be felt by you in an inconsistent way. And so that's actually the point at which we are acquiring wisdom in our human life. And so whenever you have a lot of definition, a lot of filled in centers, it kind of spotlights the centers that you're probably going to be developing your wisdom in. I know that a lot of people who are super into human design, like whenever they first start out looking at this technology, they think, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing because I have a definition in this center. When what they finally realize eventually through the process of deconditioning is that the open centers are actually where they have developed the most wisdom. That's where the challenges have come in. That's where the discernment has been required. And so those are actually the centers of focus where and how they apply themselves to the work that they're meant to be doing in this world or with other people. So it's kind of an interesting revelation whenever you come to that. The definition in our centers, I mean, he has like an incredibly defined heart center. There is no question in Jehan's mind that he is worthy of like as a human being, and that is going to be something that's incredibly powerful whenever he works individually with clients. Like they're going to have that activated within their circuitry, and they're going to feel that defined heart center within them, which is inconsistent in 70% of the population. 70% of the population has an open heart center, and whenever they come into the closer proximity with someone with an open heart center like Jehan, that's going to activate that for them, and they're going to feel that sense of worthiness that they don't always have the feeling of in their body. And that's going to be very useful in helping them to heal from the self-sabotaging behavior that they've been unconsciously engaging in. So really fascinating chart, lots of excellent features, lots of, we could go in deeper into all of the gates that he has in exaltation and detriment. But I think we're going to leave this particular episode as is. And whenever he comes back, I think we might dive a little bit deeper into the gates and channels because he's got so many to choose from here. If you enjoyed the energy expressly presented to you in this episode of Decoding the Design Within Jehan Sattaur, then you're going to want to tune into the full conversation on our sister channel, Raising the Consciousness of Humanity. And if you're interested in grabbing your design snapshot, link provided in the description of this video, and grab yours now for an in-depth analysis of your unique human energy signature. Thanks for watching.